My Nerd World.
Where's the revolution? Come on, people, you're letting me down. Where's the revolution? Come on, people, you're letting me down.
And welcome to another Depeche Mode, the podcast, Depeche Mode fans. I'm your host, John Justice. We are into episode 8 and about a week after the release of Spirit. And I cannot get enough of this album. Up front, just a couple of items of note before we get right into the show this week. First off, if you are listening on YouTube, I've been experiencing an issue, and it's probably only going to be an issue with this particular podcast, hopefully not the podcast moving forward. But because of some copyright issues, when I go to play certain segments of particular songs, some of the YouTube clips, because the podcast gets broken up into segments on YouTube, they are being taken down by YouTube due to copyright issues. I don't know what the exact parameters are, so I've been playing snippets of songs, and we're going to do the same thing for this week's podcast. However, if you are listening to part 1, and suddenly you only see part 2, or you see part 3, and you're missing a section, please go to either iTunes. You can go to iTunes, Podbean, Spreaker, Stitcher, and all of those locations, along with YouTube, have the podcast in full unedited. I would probably encourage you the most to go to iTunes. That's the easiest one. You can subscribe to the My Nerd World podcasts there. When you do, please drop me a rating or a comment. I would really appreciate it. But again, iTunes, Podbean, Spreaker, and Stitcher, you can find. You just search John Justice, John Jon Justice, or My Nerd World, and you'll find it there. If you're listening on YouTube and one of the portions is missing, I know I had a couple of complaints last week because it got flagged, and part 2 of episode 7 was taken down last week. So I wanted to make sure that I got to that up front for those of you that were bummed and missing the podcast. That's where you can go and find it. So on this week's show, finally got my hands on the album. I'll tell you that story. Obviously, I've been listening to it for a while. Digital copy came out last week, but I finally got my hands on the hard copy right here. Actually, I got a couple copies, and I'll explain why. Finally got my hands on the hard copy. So I do want to talk a little bit about the packaging for Spirit. You know, part of what makes Depeche Mode great is the complete package, the music at its core, but as I've said, I like to have the actual physical product in my hand. I want the physical disc. I want the packaging. It's a part of what makes Depeche Mode special. It is a lifestyle, and it's been always the music first and foremost. I think for me, and I'm sure for you as a fan, you'll take the music regardless of the artwork. I don't really care. But the great thing about Depeche Mode is that they have been very unique and have, in my opinion, gone out of their way to ensure that it is a complete and total package. You're not just getting the music. There's going to be artwork that goes along with it. And it's fluctuated in terms of quality throughout the years, and that's always one of those debatable issues about what does the album cover look like, and Spirit was no different. People that were online speculating what it was and the varying opinions. I mean, all of it. The music is so subjective. The artwork is so subjective. Arguably, I think Anton's photographs, I would say, subjective, but at the same time, universally loved. I love Anton's work. I really, really do. And with Spirit, the overall package it's great. And I'm going to get into a little bit more on that later on in the show this week. So that's a part of what we'll talk about, me getting my hands on it and talk about the packaging. Also, promotion of the album has started. And for those that don't know, there actually is a mini concert, a launch party that took place in Berlin on the 17th, and it's available on YouTube. I'm going to talk a bit about that. I'm not going to give any spoilers away. I know that I've spoiled myself over the course of the past few tours, and we'll talk about this, but I will never forget on a particular tour, and I may have mentioned this in one of the early podcasts, but well, actually, there's a couple tours. One in particular where I had no clue what the set list was going to be. And this was sort of pre-internet. The internet was in its infancy, and maybe if you'd gone looking for it, you could find set lists. But at this point in time, it was still, really in its infancy. And I was not on the internet at all during this period of time. And I remember going to one particular show and going in with completely fresh eyes, not knowing what to expect. And I can still remember being there on the floor for this concert and how utterly amazing it was as the show just unfolded, the spectacle unfolded before my eyes, and song after song after song, and the remixes, the concert versions, and you weren't 100% sure when the song started exactly what it was, and then the moment a familiar refrain or beat or note hit, and just that rush. Bit of a hint there. That rush that you get going, oh, it's that song. And so I do want to talk a bit about that, but I will not spoil what the set list was for this Berlin show that you can find on YouTube. Because, unfortunately I got spoiled, and I'll explain more in a moment. I got spoiled. I really wish I hadn't. But I ended up hopping online, and when I found out about this particular show, I'd gone to a thread where it was, and somebody had thrown the playlist up. And I was really bummed out, especially because of some of the gems that are in this playlist. Again, I will not spoil the playlist for you, but I'm going to talk around the edges about it. We're also going to get into the second half of the album, just like we did last week. I have grabbed my favorite portions of each individual song, and we'll be covering from Eternal to Fail, the second half of Spirit this week, and then we'll wrap up with several listener emails, including one from last week I didn't get a chance to finish from you, because again, a part of the reason why I do this podcast is because, it's not just about me, it's about you. It's about your Depeche Mode stories, and I really appreciate all the emails that you guys send to me. Again, TalkShowNerd@gmail.com is the email address. So, you know what? Let's get to it. So, as I mentioned last week, I had ordered the album online to get a better spot in line to pre-purchase tickets, right? And unfortunately, I have not been able to get tickets to the concert because of location. And I'm hoping to go later in the year, either to Vegas or LA. But I had pre-ordered the album online. And I'm never going to do that again. Because it took until Wednesday. I didn't get the album until Wednesday this week, and it was released last Friday. And again, I had the digital copy. I had got the leaked version and the better version, then I had the digital copy. So it's not like I haven't been enjoying the album, but this was the first time that I have not had an actual physical copy of the album in my hands on the day that it was released, and it really bummed me out. Now, about 2 days prior, and I'm looking at it right now, one of my friends at work that's the program director for the alternative rock station did get a promotional copy of the album and gave it to me. And I have it right here. I didn't open it up because it is a promo and it's in a single slipcover. It's not the deluxe edition. And I like the fact that it's simple, and on the back it has for promotion only, ownership reserved by Sony, sale is unlawful. And I decided that, you know what? I'm going to leave this one in the wrapper. I have very few things, very few items. Yeah, I think maybe one or two Depeche Mode items that I've left in the wrapper. And since I already had the digital copy, so I wasn't missing out on listening to the album, I decided, you know what? I'm not going to open up this particular promotional CD. I'm going to leave it in the wrapping and just use it as a display. And I think at some point in time, provided that I'm able to get to one of the shows, I intend to perhaps put it behind glass and maybe with a concert ticket, something promotional related to make a nice piece of art with it, leaving it within the wrapper. So, but I did get a physical copy of the album yesterday, and really pleased with the deluxe edition. It is essentially the same type of booklet with the dual CDs that we got with Delta Machine, and I really like that because putting it up on display with the other Depeche Mode releases, I like the fact that at least with Spirit and Delta Machine, there's some consistency to it. I liked the I have all the remasters, and those are spectacular. If you have not purchased the remasters with the DVDs, go on Amazon and find them. I mean, they are so worth the money, especially for the documentaries and all the extras that come along with it. But what I also really liked about it was how cohesive it all was. And it's a little disappointing right now that the collection, if I look behind me and look at it right now, that the sort of the collection that I have of Depeche Mode records or CDs, there's not, I'm saying this all poorly. I would love to, and I would be more than happy to purchase at some point a complete box set of all the releases from Depeche Mode, all the albums that were all in the same type of packaging. I would really love to have that because right now we don't. We have all the remasters, which is great up to a point, but then of course, you get into Playing the Angel, you get into Sounds of the Universe, and both of those, had different types of discs. So I did appreciate the fact that the deluxe edition was a booklet with the artwork, and the, obviously the lyrics as well. Kind of harkens me back to a little bit of Violator, the black on white with the lyrics inside of the liner notes. And of course with Anton's work as well with the flags, it does remind me of Black Celebration quite a bit too, but I was really pleased with the photographs, really pleased with the artwork. Looking at that again, that black on white, the black pages with the white lettering, and even the way some of it's spaced really had kind of a Violator feel to it. And spending more time with this album, it does, at least to me. I went and I listened to Violator the other day, and I followed it up with Spirit. And Martin Gore has made several comments about certain albums being a follow-up to, say, Violator or Songs of Faith and Devotion. Playing Spirit right next to Violator, and to a certain extent, because I listened to some tracks off of Songs of Faith and Devotion as well, they really do complement each other. If you want to talk about extensions, it's really interesting to listen to an album, especially Violator, that is very whole. When you hear a song on Violator, it's coming off, that album has just a very cohesive feel. And I have argued that I believe Spirit has that same type of feel. The texture of it, the vocals that Dave has throughout the course of the album, all has a very particular vibe that, this is a Spirit release. It's all very cohesive. So if you're looking for something interesting and you got some time, and driving around, put in Violator and follow it up with listening to Spirit. And you'll see that, they flow and complement each other in ways that I certainly did not imagine. And just one more quick comment on the packaging. This Spirit along with Delta Machine, apart from the music, I really thought did a good job with an overall aesthetic and feel. Better than, at least I enjoy it more than Playing the Angel. Enjoyed it more than Sounds of the Universe. Never really got into the Sounds of the Universe artwork with the different colored sticks. It certainly goes with the music, but it just I didn't find it all that appealing. I did like Delta Machine. I think Spirit is better. I was a big fan, and I've mentioned this in previous podcasts. I really liked what Anton Corbijn did with Exciter. I thought the artwork with Exciter, I thought the feel around that was all very cohesive as well. But Delta Machine, again, is, in my opinion, Anton Corbijn at its best. Really curious to see what happens with the next singles, whatever those singles are, and what the videos might bring, whether or not they go with Anton again, which I kind of hope they do. Apart from the train is coming, them dressed like Stalin doing the choo-choo arm moves, I thought that video was really great. That part I just thought could have been better. But I think the overall artistic effort that Anton Corbijn put in along with the music works together really, really well. All right, so if you haven't found it yet, and you should, because it's worth going and watching, Depeche Mode did essentially a warm-up concert. They did the same thing on the last tour, but they did a warm-up concert, live streamed it, and it is available on YouTube. Now, I have not watched it in its entirety. I've maybe watched 2 or 3 minutes. And the reason being is that once it got put up, I wanted to take a quick look at it, but I'm saving it for Friday night.